McGraw-Hill Audio presents The Articulate Executive. Learn to look, act, and sound like a leader. By Granville N. Toogood. Read by Gardner. A word in advance. The original City Slickers movie starring Billy Crystal and Jack Palance had Jack, the last of the old cowboys, and Billy, playing a Dude Ranch guest, riding off on their horses together. Suddenly, Jack, as Curly, sticks his finger up in the air and says something like, "The secret of life is just one thing." A skeptical Billy replies, "Oh, and what might that be?" And Curly says, "That's for you to find out." That little scene struck me, because if there's one thing I've learned in my business over the years, it is this one thing. Just 5 minutes in front of the right audience can be worth more than a whole year behind your desk. That's why we owe it to ourselves to understand the impact of all kinds of communications in our businesses, because today, more and more often, our business is communications. So why settle for less than enhanced profitability, measurable efficiencies, more effective strategic planning, and added value when we speak to people, any more than when we perform our jobs? What I am saying is that the formula for success is not necessarily all competence. The formula for success, as we will see shortly, is part competence, and the rest the ability to articulate that competence in a way that is not average or even predictable. Excellence in communication should be as routine as excellence in business performance. That's why personal communications training is, for most of my clients, just another business expense. Anyone who understands the changes sweeping the world recognizes that trying to cope with those changes with anemic or non-existent communications skills is like trying to run a road race in cement shoes. Think of what's happening. Restructuring, downsizing, process re-engineering, total quality, best practices, economic value added, partnering, integrated diversity, continuous improvement, speed, benchmarking, delayering, just-in-time inventory, cross-functional teamwork, empowerment, boundarylessness, common vision, entrepreneurism, and globalization. Audiences include employees, shareholders, peers, team members, new business prospects, congregations, conventions, boards, meetings, symposia, academia, panels, and partners. The dizzying corporate revolution of the 1990s will affect almost everyone alive today, and their children, and children's children. No one can predict if the revolution will ever end, fed as it is by a new standard of constant change. To deal with change, you've got to communicate, and to communicate, you've got to think. It almost goes without saying that if you want to speak crisply and intelligently, and who doesn't, first you've got to have something to say. Not only something to say, but in fact, if you're smart, and who doesn't want to be smart, you've got to have a whole new architecture. That's what this book is about. You can call it a technology if you like, but I prefer to call it a whole new architecture, to help you quickly plan and think your way with ease and confidence through any communication, no matter how challenging. Of course, this book also tries to unravel the mysterious, sometimes bewildering business of public speaking. But more importantly, it explores all that happens even before we open our mouths, the very guts of our thinking process, the flesh and bones of our mind's work. This audio is about productivity, about saving time, about being a better communicator, about planning for results and getting them, about new comprehension and surprising performance, about a part of everybody's life, daily communications, that affects every other part. It's about realizing a part of you that you may not have known was even there, and about reaching a potential you may not have imagined. When people call me, it's usually to help them speak. But in fact, I actually wind up also helping them think. In a sense, I help them design, build, furnish, and decorate an entire house. How we construct this house determines to a large extent how other people see us. The moment we open our mouths, we begin to reveal our house and everything in it. The irony lies in the fact that most people don't realize we carry this house around with us everywhere we go. Most of us suffer from this forgivable naivete. Yet throughout our lives, people form an opinion of us, almost from the moment we learn to speak. So it is in all of our interests to discover the house and all that comes with it. Everything you hear in this presentation is intended to provide ammunition against the tyranny of terrible
Sample complete. Ready to continue?